While I was away, my kids sold my dog. We needed quick cash, they claimed. When I came back, I calmly asked who had bought him. The next morning, the doorbell rang, and the new owner showed up with a surprise that sent my kids into panic. Can you believe my own family tried to invade my home, completely uninvited, and then had the audacity to call me selfish for standing my ground? It was a betrayal that shook me to my core, but also, surprisingly, the beginning of my true freedom. 3 years ago, my world felt like it had shattered when my grandpa Harold passed away. He wasn't just my grandfather. He was my mentor, the one person in my family who truly understood me. While my parents were always caught up in their careers, Grandpa taught me self-reliance and the quiet joy of solitude. So, when the lawyer told me he'd left me his mountain cabin, not to my parents, not to his other children, but to me, it meant everything. He said, and I quote, "Christine is the only one who will appreciate it for what it is, not what it could be worth." And he was right. This cabin, nestled in the Blue Ridge Mountains, wasn't just property. It was my childhood safe haven, a symbol of freedom and peace. But when I first saw it after inheriting it, reality hit hard. It was a wreck. Leaky roof, temperamental plumbing, decades of neglect. Most of my family immediately told me to sell it. "It's a money pit," my mom warned. My dad echoed, "You don't have the skills or resources." My cousin Allison even suggested I sell it to her husband's real estate company for a family discount. But I couldn't. This was Grandpa's legacy, his final gift to me. So I poured nearly all my savings into it, hiring pros for the big stuff and teaching myself everything else. Every weekend, I drove 3 hours to Charlotte, transforming that cabin, honoring Grandpa's memory while making it mine. I updated the kitchen but kept the rustic charm, preserved his river stone fireplace, but added efficient inserts. It was my project, my sanctuary. My family's interest, predictably, fluctuated. First, they said I was wasting my time. Then, as my social media showed off the progress, suddenly there were offers to help, always with the caveat of using it later. I politely declined. My family and I, we've always had a complicated relationship. My parents, successful attorneys, drilled in the mantra, family comes first, which usually meant my boundaries came last. My cousins routinely took advantage, borrowing clothes that never returned, money that was never repaid, expecting me to always adjust my plans. If I ever tried to set a boundary, I was labeled selfish. Over the years, I'd created distance, keeping contact minimal, holidays, birthdays, and the dreaded family group chat. I'd learned that too much information about my life just led to unwanted opinions and interference. Then, about a month ago, after hearing about some local vandalism, I invested in a top-notch security system for the cabin. Motion-activated cameras, a smart lock, floodlights, even a two-way communication system. Peace of mind, I thought. Little did I know I'd be using it on my own flesh and blood. It all blew up on a Tuesday afternoon. I was deep in design work, headphones on, ignoring my buzzing phone. When I finally took a break, there were 63 new messages in the family chat. 63. My stomach dropped as I scrolled back. Perfect. Your mountain cabin is just sitting there. We're making it our summer home. It was Allison, my cousin. A string of excited replies followed. Wonderful idea. The kids would love it. Count us in for 4th of July. Mom still has the old key from Grandpa, right? They were planning weeks, activities, meals, without even asking me. Photos of my cousin's excited kids, packed suitcases, captioned, "Mountain Summer, here we come." My heart hammered. My hands trembled. I flashed back to every violation of my personal space growing up. Taking a deep breath, I typed a reasonable response. "Hi everyone, I noticed these plans for my cabin. I actually have work scheduled there all summer as it's my primary workspace. Also, I'd appreciate some advance notice for visits." This is confusing as no one asked me about availability. The responses were immediate, dismissive. "Oh, come on, Chris. You can work anywhere. Honey, don't be difficult. Family should be welcome anytime. It's not like you're there all the time anyway." Each message was a fresh wound. I tried again, emphasizing my investment, my need for clients' deadlines. Their tone sharpened. You're overreacting. Don't be so selfish. Think of the kids. Then came the dagger. Harold would want the whole family to enjoy the cabin, not just one person. They were weaponizing Grandpa's memory against me. Before I could craft a scathing reply, Allison dropped the bomb. We're leaving first thing tomorrow morning, 8-hour drive. So excited. Kids are already packed. 8 hours? Then it clicked. Allison had moved to Atlanta. She was driving 8 hours, bringing her entire family, tomorrow, to my cabin, without my permission. This wasn't just per boundaries, this was a planned invasion. Shaking, I called my mom. Mom, this is out of control. Allison is literally packing to drive to my property without my permission. There was a sigh. Christine, it's just for the summer. I don't see why you're making such a fuss. Making a fuss? It's my property. Grandpa left it to me, not the whole family. Well, that was his choice, but family shares, Christine. You've always been so territorial. My heart sank. My own mother wasn't backing me up. I immediately called Allison. Christine, I was just about to text you our arrival time, she chirped. I forced my voice steady. Allison, you cannot stay at my cabin tomorrow or any day without my explicit permission. I have not given that permission. She laughed. Oh, come on. It's family. We're not strangers breaking in. That's exactly what you'll be doing, I insisted. Her voice turned hard. Look, everyone's taken time off work. The kids are packed. We've been planning this for weeks. Weeks. I exploded. And in all those weeks, it never occurred to you to ask me first? She dismissed it. I mentioned it to your mom. She thought it was a great idea. My mother doesn't speak for me, and she doesn't own my cabin. God, you're being so dramatic. My kids are 8, 10, and 12. Are you really going to disappoint children? The manipulation was sickening. I'm not disappointing anyone. You set your children up for disappointment by promising them something that wasn't yours to give. We're coming, Christine, she said, her voice now icy. You can either be reasonable or not, but we're coming. She hung up. My phone blew up. Text from my aunt. Harold would be so disappointed. From my uncle. Don't make this weird. From my cousin. Don't be the bad guy here. They all said I was selfish, unreasonable, betraying Grandpa's memory. Around 8 p.m., my Aunt Margaret, the family mediator, called. Christine, dear, such harsh language for family. No one is trespassing. At my home, without my invitation or consent, they are, I countered. I've installed a security system. No one will be able to enter without my authorization. There was a stunned silence. A security system? Don't you think that's extreme for a family cabin? Things change, I said. After more fruitless arguing, I hung up. Then, a disturbing realization. Several messages referenced features of the cabin they couldn't have known unless someone had shared details. They'd been passing around my address. I sent one final message to the group. I want to be absolutely clear. The cabin is not available for family use this summer. I have not and will not give permission for anyone to enter the property. Please respect my boundaries and my property rights. The responses were immediate and hostile. Too late. We're already packed. Christine, enough. This isn't like you. Your behavior is embarrassing. By midnight, I was physically ill. My hands trembled, my stomach churned. I stared at the ceiling, dreading tomorrow. The last message I saw was from Allison. We're all adults here. We'll take good care of the place. See you tomorrow, maybe? As I finally drifted into an uneasy sleep at 4 a.m., one thing was crystal clear. Reasoning wasn't going to work. The shrill notification from my phone jolted me awake at 9:30 a.m. motion detected on the front path. My heart pounded. I opened the app. A car I didn't recognize was pulling into my driveway. Then a text from Carl, my neighbor. Your family arriving with loads of luggage. Quite a crowd. Didn't know you were expecting company. Want me to help them get settled? I typed back instantly. Not expected. Not invited. Do not help them get in. Call me. My phone rang. Christine, what's going on? Carl sounded concerned. My family has decided to use my cabin for the summer. Without asking me. I switched to the security app. 3 cars. 12 people, including kids, running wild. Allison, acting like a cruise director. Her husband, Jason, trying the front door, then checking under rocks for a hidden key. Thomas and Melanie unloading coolers. Their kids were already trampling my carefully cultivated native plant garden. "Oh my God," I whispered. This was an invasion. Jason was now trying to force a window with a small tool. "He's trying to force a window," I told Carl. "That's breaking and entering," Carl said firmly. "I'm calling the sheriff." "Wait," I said, a sudden clarity cutting through my panic. "I have another idea." In that moment, I remembered Grandpa's words. "Christine, you teach people how to treat you by what you allow. Don't get mad. Get clear. Set your boundaries and hold them even when it's difficult. Especially when it's difficult." My grandfather wouldn't want his cabin to be a battleground, but he also wouldn't want my boundaries trampled. He trusted my judgment. It was time to honor that trust. With newfound resolve, I wiped my tears and navigated the security app. Floodlights, smart locks, outdoor speakers, two-way communication. I never imagined I'd use them against my own family. But here we were. I watched Jason still working on the window, the kids running, Allison directing everything like she owned the place. I took a deep breath. And I activated the emergency protocol. Immediately, powerful floodlights blazed, even in the morning sun. An ear-piercing alarm blared from speakers all around the cabin. Then, an automated message, loud and clear. "This is a security alert. Unauthorized presence detected on private property. Local security service has been notified. Please vacate the premises immediately." Chaos erupted. The children froze, then started crying, covering their ears. The adults spun around, bewildered. Jason jumped back from the window, nearly falling. Allison stood in the driveway, mouth agape, staring at a speaker. Thomas grabbed his child, scanning the property. Everyone started herding the crying kids toward the cars. Neighbors, including Carl, were peering out. It was time to make my presence known. I pressed the button for the two-way communication system. "Attention, this is Christine Anderson, the legal owner of this property. You are currently trespassing on private property. I have not given permission for anyone to enter or use this cabin. You need to leave immediately." Everyone froze again, looking up at the speakers in disbelief. Allison recovered first, her face contorting with rage. "Christine, turn this off right now. You're scaring the children." I kept my voice calm but firm through the speakers. "A security service has been dispatched and will arrive shortly. I have video evidence of attempted forced entry, which is a criminal offense. Please return to your vehicles and leave the property immediately." Jason stomped up to a camera, his face inches from the lens. "This is ridiculous. We're family, not criminals. Turn this system off right now. Please step away from the security equipment," I responded. Tampering with security systems is also an offense. You have 5 minutes to vacate the property before the security service arrives. It wasn't entirely true. I hadn't called the local security service yet, but they were on retainer. I wanted to give them a chance to leave. The kids were sobbing now. Some adults were clearly rethinking their position, moving towards the cars, but Allison stood her ground, furiously typing on her phone. My phone rang. It was her. I switched from the speaker system. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she shrieked. "Protecting my property from trespassers," I replied, perfectly calm. "We are not trespassers. We are your family. Turn off these alarms right now. You're terrifying the children." "The children wouldn't be terrified if you hadn't brought them to a property you had no permission to enter," I pointed out. "The alarms will stop when you leave. You've completely overreacted." Allison spat. "Now you've embarrassed all of us in front of the neighbors and traumatized the kids. I made it clear yesterday that my cabin was not available. You chose to ignore me and come anyway. These are the consequences of your actions, not mine. I'm going to call Mom," she threatened. "Everyone in the family is going to hear about this. Feel free to tell them how you attempted to occupy my home without permission and got caught," I shot back. "Now, please leave before I need to call local law enforcement in addition to the security service." Through the cameras, I watched them grudgingly load luggage back into cars. Allison and Jason, defiant to the last. "This isn't over," Allison warned before hanging up. True to my word, 2 minutes later, A local security company car pulled up, responding to my automated alert. I explained the situation, asking them to handle it. I watched as the officer approached Allison and Jason, who immediately started shouting and gesturing. The officer remained calm. After a tense conversation, Allison and Jason, faces flushed with anger, finally got into their car. Within 15 minutes of the alarm first sounding, all 3 cars were packed. The officer stayed, ensuring they left. As they drove away, my phone exploded with calls and messages. I ignored them all. I drove the 3 hours to the cabin myself. I needed to see it, make sure there was no damage. More importantly, I needed to face this head-on. As I packed, I felt a complex mix of adrenaline, exhaustion, anxiety, but underneath it all, a fierce, unwavering determination. For the first time, I had stood up to my family's boundary violations in a way that couldn't be ignored. I arrived just after 1 p.m. The security officer was still there. To my dismay, all 3 cars were parked about 100 yards down the road, just off my property. They refused to leave the area, the officer explained. They're insisting on speaking with you. I took a deep breath. No, that's all right. I'll talk to them. As I pulled into my driveway, doors opened. Allison, Jason, Thomas, and Melanie approached the edge of my property, stopping at my split-rail fence. Their expressions ranged from angry to hostile. The security officer stood nearby as I got out of my car. The tension was suffocating. "Christine," Allison began, her voice tight with fury. "I can't believe you would embarrass us like this, calling security on your own family. What is wrong with you?" I looked at her calmly. "I told you clearly that you did not have permission to enter my property. You chose to ignore me and come anyway." "It's a family cabin," she insisted. "No," I corrected. "It's my cabin. Grandpa left it to me, not to the family collectively." Thomas stepped forward. "Come on, Christine. We just wanted to give the kids a nice summer experience. Is that really so terrible that you needed to traumatize them?" "I'm sorry the children were frightened," I said sincerely. "But they wouldn't have been in that situation if you had respected my clear communication yesterday." "You've always been selfish," Melanie chimed in. "Even as a kid, you never wanted to share anything." "This isn't about sharing," I replied. "This is about basic respect for boundaries and property rights. You wouldn't walk into a stranger's house uninvited. The fact that we're related doesn't change the principle." Jason, who had been simmering, suddenly burst out. "Do you have any idea how much time we took off work for this? How much planning went into this trip? The kids have been looking forward to this for weeks. Planning that happened entirely without consulting me, the owner of the property," I pointed out. "That's the fundamental problem here. You made plans involving my home without my knowledge or consent." "Harold would be ashamed," Allison said, her voice low and cutting. "He always welcomed family at the cabin. Always." That stung, but I held my ground. Grandpa welcomed invited guests. He didn't appreciate boundary violations, and he left the cabin to me because he trusted my judgment. Just then, my neighbor Carl approached with his morning coffee. "Everything okay over here, Christine?" "Just a family disagreement," I explained. "More than a disagreement," Carl said, turning to my relatives. "I saw your husband trying to force that side window open. Where I come from, that's breaking and entering." Jason flushed. "I was just checking if it was locked." "You were never locked out," I corrected. "You were never invited in. There's a difference. This is ridiculous. We're going to speak to a lawyer about this." Allison fumed. "You can't just inherit family property and keep it all to yourself." "Actually, she can," said the security officer who had been quietly observing. "The deed is in Miss Anderson's name alone. Legally, this is her private property, and you have no right to access it without her permission." "We'll see about that," Jason muttered. I looked at my family, really looked at them, and felt a strange sense of clarity. Their anger wasn't about the cabin. It was about the disruption to the family dynamic. For years, I had been the one who gave in, who accommodated, who adjusted my boundaries. By standing firm now, I had upset their established order. "I think it's time for you all to leave," I said firmly. "I've made my position clear. The cabin is not available for family use without my explicit invitation." "And what are we supposed to do now?" Thomas demanded. We've taken time off work. The kids are expecting a vacation. That's not my responsibility, I replied. You created this situation by making plans involving my property without asking me. There are plenty of rental cabins in the area. At peak season prices? That's just great, Melanie said sarcastically. I'm sorry your lack of planning has created difficulties for you, I said. But I'm not changing my position. Allison's face hardened. You'll regret this, Christine. When you need family support, don't come running to us. The threat hung heavy in the air. Part of me wanted to point out that family support shouldn't be conditional on allowing boundary violations, but I knew it was pointless. I think we're done here, I said instead. Please leave. For a moment, Allison looked like she might argue, but Jason put a hand on her arm. Let's go. This isn't worth it. The adults turned and walked back to their cars. Through the windows, I could see the disappointed faces of the children. That was the hardest part, knowing they were caught in the middle of adult conflict. But I also knew that allowing my boundaries to be violated wasn't the solution. The drive back to Atlanta would be long and tense for those families. A part of me felt guilty about the children's disappointment, but a stronger part recognized that their parents had created this situation, not me. As the cars finally pulled away, the security officer approached. Would you like me to stay longer, Miss Anderson? No, that won't be necessary, I said, suddenly exhausted. I think they've gotten the message. After thanking the officer and saying goodbye to Carl, I finally entered my cabin. Everything was as I had left it, untouched by the invasion attempt. The familiar scent of pine and the quiet creaking of the wooden floors welcomed me home. I sank into Grandpa's old armchair, the one piece I had kept exactly as it was, and felt the emotional weight of the day crash over me. Relief that my sanctuary remained intact. Pride in standing my ground. Sadness that it had come to this with my family. Anxiety about the fallout that would surely follow. My phone showed 23 missed calls and over 50 unread messages. Most were from family. I put the phone down. Those conversations could wait. For now, I needed time to process what had happened and find my center again. As evening fell, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, watching the fireflies emerge, just as I had done with my grandfather years ago. The mountains were cast in purple shadow, the air cooling with that particular fresh scent that always made this place feel magical. You did good, kiddo, I could almost hear my grandfather say. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. In the quiet of the mountain evenings, surrounded by the sanctuary I had created, I began to find peace with my decision. The cabin was still mine. My boundaries had been maintained, even if it cost me some family goodwill. Some prices were worth paying. The weeks following what I now call the invasion attempt were challenging. The family group chat exploded, then fell silent. My mother left tearful voicemails about how I humiliated my cousins. My father sent a curt email. I responded to none of it. Instead, I stayed at the cabin for 2 weeks, working remotely, giving myself space. The silence was healing. Gradually, individual messages trickled in. My younger sister, Emily, who had been notably absent from the cabin scheme, reached out first. That sounds intense. For what it's worth, I think they were totally out of line. Grandpa left you the cabin for a reason. Love you. Her simple support meant more than she could know. My cousin Marcus, another family outlier, sent a brief message. Heard about the cabin situation. Respect for standing your ground. They'll get over it. Even my Uncle David, my father's quiet brother, surprised me with a thoughtful email acknowledging the family should have respected my ownership. These small gestures helped, but couldn't erase years of boundary violations. After returning to Charlotte, I saw a therapist who specialized in family dynamics. Dr. Lawson helped me see the patterns more clearly. What you're describing is a family system that doesn't respect individual boundaries, she explained. Your grandfather seems to have recognized this dynamic, which may be why he left you the cabin directly. Everyone keeps saying I'm selfish for not sharing, I told her. There's a difference between generosity and allowing yourself to be taken advantage of, she replied. Healthy relationships require mutual respect. Over the following months, Dr. Lawson helped me develop strategies for maintaining boundaries without unnecessary conflict. I also found an online community of people with similar experiences, providing validation I hadn't realized I needed. I wasn't alone. As summer turned to fall, I reclaimed my relationship with the cabin. I completed renovation projects, painting cabinets a cheerful blue, replacing old deck furniture with pieces that reflected my taste. Each change, no matter how small, felt like a declaration. Asterisk, this is mine. Mine to change, mine to preserve, mine to share only when and with whom I choose. Asterisk, the isolation I had initially feared never materialized. Instead, I developed genuine friendships with my cabin neighbors. We all had family members who thought our vacation homes were their vacation homes, laughed Joanna, a neighbor. These new connections were refreshing, built on mutual respect. By Thanksgiving, tensions had cooled. My mother called to discuss holiday plans without mentioning the incident. I kept the conversation pleasant but non-committal, applying Dr. Lawson's techniques. I agreed to attend dinner, but made it clear I'd be staying at a hotel, not my parents' house. That seems unnecessary, my mother commented. We have plenty of room. I prefer having my own space, I replied, offering no further explanation. The slight pause before she accepted felt like progress. The holiday itself was awkward but manageable. I left early, returning to my hotel with a sense of accomplishment rather than exhaustion. As winter settled over the mountains, I spent Christmas at the cabin, inviting only Emily and her boyfriend. It was the most peaceful holiday I could remember. You know, Emily said one evening by the fireplace, I used to think you were overreacting about how the family treats you, but seeing how much happier you are now, standing up for yourself, I get it. And I'm kind of inspired by it. Her words meant everything. By spring, the cabin had fully become my sanctuary again. The security system remained, not as fear, but as a symbol of my right to protect what was mine, to establish healthy boundaries. Some family relationships had changed, perhaps permanently. Allison still maintained a chilly distance. My parents accepted my boundaries, but clearly didn't understand them. Others, like Emily and Uncle David, had grown closer. I learned that healthy boundaries sometimes meant losing relationships built on unhealthy dynamics. While that loss carried its own grief, it made room for connections based on mutual respect and genuine caring. On a warm evening in early May, almost a year after the confrontation, I sat on my grandfather's porch, sipping tea from one of his old mugs. The mountains vibrant with spring growth, birds calling in the twilight. I thought about how much had changed, not just in the cabin, but in me. Grandpa had given me more than property. He had given me the opportunity to learn my own worth, to stand firm in the face of pressure, to create a life based on self-respect rather than accommodation. The cabin was the catalyst. But the real transformation had happened within me. Thank you, I whispered to the evening air, certain that somehow, somewhere, he understood. The peace I felt in that moment was hard-won but complete. I had protected what mattered to me. Not just the physical space of the cabin, but my right to set boundaries and have them respected. The relationships that remained in my life were healthier for it, and I was stronger. As night fell over the mountains, I made a silent promise to myself and to my grandfather's memory. I would continue to honor both the cabin and myself by maintaining those boundaries, not with anger or defensiveness, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows her own worth. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who didn't respect your boundaries? It's a battle no one expects to fight, but it's one that can truly redefine who you are.